Part 138. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1381. Wu Yu kept thinking of ways to use exorcisms and fairy dreams more and more than 30 times in a year. Each time, she returned in vain. When Lord Xuanhuan woke up, he started to curse. For her, there was not a big difference between once and dozens of times, but of course she couldn't bear it, just giving in like this again and again. He gives stain. As of today, she has scolded all the threats. Her hatred for Wu Yu has long been engraved in her bones, and it can be seen in her eyes. At this time, she was much more haggard than at the beginning. It ended again. Wu Yu returned without success. After Huangjun woke up, her eyes were gray. She said in a hoarse voice, "You have left an indelible mark on my life, 10,000 swords Immortal Jun. One day, I will personally torture you forever. I will become an immortal emperor, and then I will make you immortal and miserable forever." Wu Yu smiled coldly and said, "Continue to fantasize. Don't think too much in your life. You can only stay here to accompany me and give me children. Maybe you are already pregnant." This was his first official response. He had never said anything before, leaving Huangjun with a little hope. But now that he was talking about having children, Huangjun suddenly turned pale, his red lips trembled, and he could imagine the pain in his heart. And know it? Seeing her miserable look, Wu Yu felt the pleasure of revenge in his heart. Because he tried more than 30 methods but could not find any trace of Nangongwei. All the facts proved that Nangongwei was dead. She had disappeared from this world and was lost forever. Wu Yu felt the pain in his heart. He couldn't imagine that. He had never thought that she would be dead and he would feel so uncomfortable. He thought that he had forgotten her. Therefore, as the murderer Huangjun, Wu Yu naturally hates her more and more, especially her delicate and aloof appearance. Since the other party thinks that Wu Yu did something to her, and she is in pain and unbearable, then let her suffer. Otherwise, how to relieve the hatred in her heart? Wu Yu couldn't kill her. If he killed her, he would really lose hope forever. Having children, being pregnant, these unfamiliar words made Huangjun completely give up hope. Her whole body was limp, and the whole world was pale. Now she wanted to kill herself. She no longer wanted to have such a body. Want it? In all her life, she has never been in such pain as she is now. Taigzu Immortal Road, after 100 years of opening, everyone will go out. At that time, your nightmare will come. After struggling and crying for a long time, Lord Xuanhuan gritted his teeth and said to Wu Yu with burning eyes. "Ah, I forgot to tell you," Wu Yu said with a smile on his face, "my creation artifact can change time. 1 year outside, there are hundreds of years inside. Now the total outside is less than 20 years, so there are still 80 years is equivalent to 8,000 years. You still have to live with me for 8,000 years. I'm afraid you'll have all your descendants by then. How can you kill me? Kill the father of your child and be your mother? Don't think too much." After saying that, he pulled up the barrier, let her despair, let her suffer. Of course, Wu Yu would not touch her at all. These were all her own imagination. Since she asked for trouble, Wu Yu took the opportunity to let her taste the pain. Anyway, her life has been so smooth so far, and she regards human life as such. Grass mustard. Hearing those 8,000 years, Huangjun must have collapsed. She might still be able to bear it in 80 years, but if she really gave birth to children in 8,000 years, then she would be truly destroyed. If it is lost, then how can one kill this 10,000 swords immortal lord? Or in other words, must one's own flesh and blood be killed in the end in order to completely erase the humiliation one has suffered here? Despair and nightmares made her restless every day. She was often dizzy and frightened herself half to death. As for the tears, she almost shed them all. No matter how he cursed, roared, or struggled, Wu Yu never stopped his various actions. Every time she tried, she was in despair and crying, enduring Wu Yu's exorcism and fairy dreams. Performed well today. Afterwards, Wu Yu's smiling face made her unable to forget it, and she was already numb. What she fears most now is getting pregnant. Fortunately, they are not of the same race, so the probability is even lower, but there is precedent. Such frequent occurrences, even after 8,000 years, are still very possible. Once that happens, she really doesn't know what to do. The pain is numb now, let alone when the time comes, she can kill Wu Yu, but she wants to erase this trace and prevent the world from seeing it. If found out, could she kill her own flesh and blood? Wu Yu stayed in the corner of the floating life tower and tried at least 50 times, but still couldn't do anything. The other party's immortals couldn't decompose and explore unless he killed the other party. He had basically exhausted all his strategies. I've thought about it clearly, but still can't figure it out. Really, are you dead? He was irritable. Let's rest for a while and focus on your cultivation. Maybe as your level improves, a solution will come naturally. Seeing as you don't want to let her go, just let her stay, Ming Long suggested. Good. Wu Yu also knew that continuing like this would do him no good. Since we can't find a way for the time being, let her keep her for the time being and continue to practice. The last time she competed for the 9th grade Immortal King Seal, she devoured a large number of 9-realm Immortal Lords. Their Tao and knowledge were of no use to Wu Yu is still quite helpful now. The physical world realm is now at the 4th level. The ancient immortal pattern of the 4th path, called the Way of Clones, is related to the cultivation of outlaw clones. Wu Yu has long wanted to integrate it into the core of the world of immortals and gods. Cultivation now takes longer and longer. He admitted that he had been too upset recently because of Nangong Wei's matter. Maybe calming down and practicing would bring some results. Of course, he did not give up on seeking a way out for Nangong Wei, but the main task next was to practice. Even Huao Huangjun felt that Wu Yu came to her less frequently, probably because he was practicing. This guy really doesn't know whether to live or die. He even cut off his practice time to come to me. Huao Huangjun was helpless. Whenever Wu Yu appeared, he would attack her directly without saying a word. She was controlled by several kinds of fortune fairy tools. It was useless to struggle. She would be hit every time and fall asleep every time. When she woke up in a daze, more than 10 days had passed, and Wu Yu had already continued to practice. Wu Yu's main focus this time was to study the magical power of abnormal clone. He thought that if this magical power could be improved, it might also promote the progress of the Way of Clone. It should be easier to integrate it into the core of the immortal god world. But he also found that the magical power of abnormal clone had been cultivated to the last moment and was extremely complicated. There were many ways in it. Even if he had the help of many 9 realms immortal lords, he had to take it slowly at this time, gradually improve himself, and put enough patience into it. After all, Taixu Fairyland and Eternal Emperor Immortal were not easy to achieve. At least in Taixu Fairyland, no matter how great the genius is, it takes 100,000 years. Wu Yu actually practiced for a long time in the floating life tower. And this time, when it was just the Way of Clone of the heavenly Dao magical power, when it was gradually progressing, thinking hard, and finally conquered and created the million clones, 400 years had passed. This is why all his attention was on it. The scale of a million clones is quite terrifying. This is the 9th level of the lawless clone, which is close to perfection. However, to make all the million clones stronger, he is afraid that he still needs a lot of cultivation resources, or devouring. The lawless clone finally made progress, and Wu Yu also made great progress in this way. At this time, he was working hard to achieve the 4 realms immortal lord, which was easier. Of course, Wu Yu did not give up the bullying of Xuanhuan in these 400 years. During the cultivation process, he occasionally thought of some methods, and he needed to try. Although there was no effect, he did not give up. In the past 400 years, there were more than 20 times every year, which was nearly 1,000 times. Xuanhuan was worried every day. She was numb and accustomed to Wu Yu's bullying. What made her relieved was that she never got pregnant, which was the only good news. How could she know that Wu Yu didn't touch her at all? Next, in order to become a four-realm immortal lord, Wu Yu spent nearly 600 years to learn the way of splitting his body and integrate it into the core of the immortal god world, reaching the 4th level of the audit. The knowledge of the 9-realm immortal lords could only help him to this extent, because everyone's cultivation path is different, and the later Wu Yu gets, the more special he becomes. It is not so easy to increase the power of the world. Xuanhuan calculated that Wu Yu had made her endure more than 1,500 times of exorcism in the past 1,000 years, and each time was humiliating. Later, she was like a walking corpse. She didn't expect it to be so terrible. She was actually used to it. If Wu Yu didn't show up for dozens of days, she would feel strange. There was even one time when she was really scared by the exorcism and said, "Can you stop letting me sleep? It's been so many times, is there any difference? What else can I do to you?" After all, it's been thousands of times, and she doesn't know what it feels like. And the exorcism is like a hammer hitting every time, who can bear it? I didn't expect that she could say such words even though she was numb. Wu Yu really scared her, but Wu Yu knew that her hatred for him had reached a terrible level, and she just hid it. The suffering she had endured these days was a test for her. No, she didn't expect that he would refuse her initiative, and there was no room for negotiation. Before she finished speaking, the exorcism technique had already landed on his immortal god. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1382. Day after day, year after year, another 100 years passed. Wu Yu's immortality and body have reached the level of the immortal lord of the 4 realms, and it will be quite difficult to make progress next. Therefore, in the past 100 years, his energy has been basically devoted to dealing with Lord Fire Dance Phoenix, which happened frequently. In the past 100 years, the Fire Dance Phoenix Lord had hardly rested. He almost woke up and was hit by an exorcism spell immediately, which made him go crazy. "You want me to have children, so you don't have to do this." Xuanhuan was really crazy. As soon as he woke up and said the words, Wu Yu directly used the exorcism technique to knock him out. In fact, Wu Yu was also impatient. It had been such a long time. Did she really dissipate completely? Now that his realm had improved, the immortal gods were more powerful. However, he did not find any immortal gods among the immortal gods of Lord Xuanhuan. Regarding the slightest trace of Nangongwei, she is a completely different person. As soon as Lord Xuanhuan woke up, she immediately cursed and even resisted fiercely. She wanted to destroy Wu Yu's creation artifacts that controlled her. However, Wu Yu had already confiscated her 9-color chaos thorns and Xiaoding immortal beads. It is difficult to do it with one's own strength. Of course, he didn't dare to sacrifice the Tegzu artifact, otherwise Yuanzhu Huangdi might know about it. Inside the floating life tower, Wu Yu had worked hard for a total of 1100 years, while 11 years had passed outside. On this day, Wu Yu suddenly received a messenger talisman from Gu Moying. It came from Su Zidong. He told Wu Yu, they found a strange thing. They couldn't confirm it for a long time. They thought that Wu Yu had the magical power of a clone. Wanting Wu Yu to use his clone to go in and have a look. Then he gave a star map, which roughly standardized the location. Because Wu Yu and them had been there before, Wu Yu probably knew that place. At present, Xuanhuan Lord has not made any breakthroughs. He has also obtained the 9th grade Immortal King seal. Wu Yu decided to set off without any other time. 1 day outside and 100 days inside. While Wu Yu was on the road, Lord Xuanhuan could rest for a few days. Strange thing? What on earth is it? Wu Yu hadn't been outside for a long time. After he came out, he was very fast and directly drove the somersault cloud towards the distance. As for Nanshan Wanjiao and the others, they continued to make progress under Wu Yu's inheritance. In 1,000 years, they have been close to the realm Lord God realm. They also have the experience of the immortal Lord of the 9 realms, and I believe that it won't be long before the two of them can help Wu Yu. Wu Yu was thinking about this strange thing. Suddenly, there was movement in the fusion tower. Wu Yu entered instantly. He knew that it must be Lord Xuanhuan who was up to something. However, time outside was much slower than inside. When Wu Yu felt the movement, and then went in, a certain amount of time had passed inside. When he entered, he found that Lord Xuanhuan had managed to break free of the Xiantian pagoda, the god-suppressing chain, the shattering divine whip, and the cold immortal ice silk. She had been able to break free from the 4 creation artifacts. It seemed that she had been waiting for today for a long time. It's been a long time. She just waited for Wu Yu to go out before she launched an attack. It's so patient. I'm afraid it's been planned for a while. Then, she should break free from the shackles of the fusion tower, open this place, and escape from here. This may be her only hope. Maybe if she escapes here, she can communicate with Yuan Zhuangdi and others, but then Wu Yu will be in trouble. Although the time inside is running out quickly, Wu Yu reacts quickly. She is attacking the fusion tower vigorously. If the 9-color Chaos Thorn is still in her hand, with her ability, she may be able to penetrate the floating tower. Fortunately, the 9-color Chaos Thorn is still in her hand. In Wu Yu's hands. But this time it was quite thrilling, because the direction chosen by Lord Xuanhuan to attack the fusion tower was on the side of Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi. The two of them were practicing peacefully. The wall that Wu Yu built inside the fusion tower actually turned out to was broken by it. Wu Yu had just come in, and Xuanhuan was happy. She chose the wrong direction, thinking that she could get out by hitting the wrong wall. Unexpectedly, the wall broke, and 2 people, a man and a woman, appeared on the opposite side. Lord Xuanhuan was stunned. However, Wu Yu was still quite nervous, because if she continued to attack at this time, Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi would be in danger. He quickly appeared in front of the 2 people, then controlled the fusion tower, isolated them, and intercepted the fire dance phoenix in front of you. You are so brave. Do you dare to take the opportunity to escape? Wu Yu looked fierce and shouted, making Xuanhuan Lord, who had now regained his freedom, take 2 steps back. He was ready for a fight and was going to kill her directly. Even in his own floating tower, she was still a dangerous person without control. When Wu Yu attacked, the first thing he used was the exorcism technique, which caused a direct shock. Unexpectedly, it was strange this time. Lord Xuanhuan looked a little confused and did not move his hands. He was directly hit by Wu Yu's exorcism technique, and then Wu Yu was quite relaxed. He once again used 4 kinds of creation artifacts such as the cold immortal ice silk to freeze her, and also added several more. He was a little lax before, otherwise he would not have let her break free so easily. After all, it took thousands of years. No, she hasn't been like this either. I'm sorry, I didn't succeed this time. You won't have another chance in the future. Wu Yu controlled her, threw her in the corner, and said slightly angrily. Lord Xuanhuan was a little strange. Her eyes struggled a little, and she looked at Wu Yu in astonishment. Her voice was trembling, and she said, "Who are these 2, how come they are so familiar? I seem to remember their names." What did you say? As soon as Wu Yu's expression changed, he knew that it might be troublesome for her to see the 2 of them. If she went out in the future and searched based on their appearance, she might be able to find Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi, and she could also find herself. Moreover, she also said that she seemed to remember their names. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Could it be that she has Nangong Wei's memory, but it has not been awakened? She was suddenly very excited, and felt like tears welling up in her eyes. She stared at Wu Yu with her beautiful eyes and said, "They are called Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi. They are the ones who came from the companion phoenix egg that I recently merged. This is her memory. Why are they here? Shouldn't they be mortals?" Wu Yu was stunned. How could she know their names? Then he. At this time, Huangjun widened his eyes and looked at Wu Yu in disbelief. Wu Yu looked at her. In her eyes, Wu Yu saw that she might have remembered a lot of things. This seems to be bad. I didn't expect that she would change so much after taking a look at Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi. Sure enough, she said blankly, I saw a picture, in the ice and snow, a place called Qingtian Shushan. I was still young, and I gave you a bag, which contains something called Jufang Demon Pillar. No, that's not me, it's the phoenix egg. That's not you either, you are Wanjian. No. No. You are Wu Yu. Your name is Wu Yu. I have seen you in that blue sea of fire. Your real identity is Wu Yu. You are someone that the phoenix egg knows. Speaking of the latter, her face flushed with excitement, her whole body trembling, she stared at Wu Yu intently. She finally knew Wu Yu's true identity, which was a huge shock to her, because Wu Yu was still the Snow Domain Immortal Lord, but she thought Wu Yu was the Wanjian Immortal Lord, and she was very sure, but she never expected that this Wanjian Immortal Lord was actually related to a person he had seen in that blue sea of fire. She wanted to keep Wu Yu by her side, but when she got the 8th grade Immortal King seal, she found that Wu Yu had actually run away. Then, she forgot that Wu Yu said at that time that he was the benefactor of the companion phoenix egg. Wu Yu was also very depressed now. He didn't expect that the other party could really know his true identity in this way. Now he couldn't let her go, otherwise it would be really troublesome. He sneered, "You are mentally ill." "What Wu Yu, what Nanshan Wanjiao Yexixi, these two are my brother and sister, and they have nothing to do with the names you said. Have you been beaten by my exorcism technique too many times, and your brain is wrong?" Huangjun was stunned. She lowered her head and shook it. Suddenly, she looked up and stared at Wu Yu with her phoenix eyes wide open, saying word by word, "Wu Yu, don't quibble. I remember everything. The phoenix egg was named Nangong Wei, and you were her childhood sweetheart. I remember a lot later, you let her down and got together with another woman. You went to heaven by yourself. Then you met me, and I killed her, so you want her to come back to life. Now, I finally know the real purpose of your catching me. No, how can your progress be so fast? You haven't been an immortal for 100 years. It's impossible. Impossible. Go to hell." Wu Yu directly killed her again with the exorcism technique, and then let her fall asleep with the floating fairy dream. He should have done this long ago, otherwise she would think more and more. What she remembers now is already fatal to Wu Yu. This fire dance phoenix king, I'm afraid he knows everything. Ming Long curled his lips and said, "I told you, young man, you are playing with fire. Don't forget that behind her is the Yuanzu Huangdi." Wu Yu sighed and said, "Maybe now, we can't let her go. Either kill her or imprison her forever, but this is impossible. We must get out. Fusheng Tower is not enough for the Yuanzu Huangdi. Then what do you say?" Wu Yu could only say, "There are still thousands of years. Let's see if there are other ways." Since she can have such a clear memory of Nangong Wei, maybe she still has a chance to change or survive. This shows that Nangong Wei still has an influence on her. That's right, we can only do this for now. Wu Yu let her sleep for a little longer this time. Maybe she will forget about this matter when she wakes up, so he added a lot of restrictions, and Fu Shengxian Men was used again and again to freeze the other party directly to prevent her from escaping again. Then, he continued to go to Su Zidong. He planned to see what Su Zidong had found first, and then deal with the matter of Nangongwei and Huo Wu Huangjun. In the middle, Huo Wu Huangjun woke up again, and as soon as he opened his eyes, he cursed, "You despicable and shameless man! You followed another woman, what qualifications do you have to touch me? You also want me to bear children for you, I am not that phoenix egg. Go to hell." Although she remembered Wu Yu's identity, she still thought that Wu Yu was violating her every time he let her sleep. Wu Yu didn't say anything and let her continue to sleep, but looking at this situation, she probably remembered it more clearly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1383. Wu Yu was moving forward in this endless galaxy. He used the law of heaven and earth to change his body to the minimum, so basically, no one would notice his rapid passing. In terms of speed, Wu Yu has improved to such a level, and he is already the leader among the 100 million immortals, especially this time the competition for the 9th grade Immortal King Seal has made him a huge progress. From the bottom, he rushed directly to the top, and now he can fight with the top immortals. Huo Wu Huangjun could defeat him before, but now on the contrary, Wu Yu can easily crush her. I believe this change also shocked her heart. She already knew Wu Yu's true identity, and naturally knew Wu Yu's progress, which was quite rare. She knows your identity, what are your plans next? The boat will naturally straighten itself when it reaches the bridgehead. There is still time, and there must be a way to solve it. Wu Yu was not frightened, he was not in a hurry, his heart was calm, and if he thought more, there might be a way. Su Zidong continued to send Wu Yu a message of Immortal Talisman, pointing out the position and direction of Wu Yu's advance. Soon after, Wu Yu knew the star they were on. The star was not big, gray-black in color, and not dazzling. This was why Su Zidong and his team were still safe. The strongest among them was only the Seven Realms Immortal Lord, and he also had a very good Immortal King Seal, which was actually quite dangerous. Fortunately, they knew their own limitations and hid from then on. Wu Yu followed the location they pointed to and found a crack in the star. After drilling into the depths of the crack, there was a huge and deep abyss inside. The depths of the abyss were dark, and you could continue to go down. It was empty and complex, with rugged rocks and twists and turns. When Wu Yu found them, he estimated that he was already close to the center of the star. This star is basically empty inside. It can be seen that it is basically an empty frame. The place where Su Zidong and his team were found was next to an underground river. The water in the underground river was extremely smelly and had a special feeling. Wu Yu thought for a long time and felt that it should be a kind of death gas, or corpse gas. Why is there such a river in Taizhou Immortal Road? Su Zidong and his friends were by the river. They hadn't seen Wu Yu for a long time, and they laughed so hard that they couldn't close their mouths. Finally, I see you. I have been worried these days. After all, you are alone and dare to venture into Taizhou Immortal Road, Su Zidong said. Yang Wenlin smiled and said, "Boss, don't talk nonsense. He is running around alone, and his ability to save his life is much better than ours." Seeing that the 8 of them were basically safe, Wu Yu was relieved. By the way, what was the thing you were talking about before? Su Zidong put away his smile and said, "It's a slightly strange thing. Come with me." As he said that, everyone set off together. They went deeper along the river and entered a dark cave. The lower half of the cave was full of rivers. Wu Yu found that the river water was almost gray, which was a bit wrong. Moreover, the closer to the source, the thicker the gray. Later, it gradually turned into a dim yellow, which was very turbid. Moreover, the death aura, corpse aura, bloody aura, and even a kind of despair aura became thicker. We are almost there. It is that thing that made the river like this, Xuanhuan said. Wu Yu suddenly saw that the river in front seemed to be clean, and there was a dividing point between clean and turbid. This dividing point was their goal. It was because of the existence of this dividing point that the river below became extremely turbid. Wu Yu saw the thing at a glance. It was a ring with a diameter of about 10 feet. I don't know what it was made of. It looked like a kind of decayed bronze, with rust all over it. It was very old. It was because of the existence of this bronze ring with a diameter of about 10 feet that the river flowing around it changed. In the middle of the ring, there were faint ripples, and there were many evil spirits, bloody spirits, and even gloomy ghosts and wolves howling. This was the source of terror. This bronze ring reminded Wu Yu of his ancient demon world door. Once his ancient demon world door was opened, it might be like this. We guessed that this might be a door. We saw someone go in before, and they haven't come out yet. This thing still exists. We didn't dare to go in, mainly because we had already completed the goal of coming in, and there was no need to take risks. Then, this thing is full of ghosts and hell. It feels like it is definitely not a good thing. Several 8 realms immortal kings have gone in before, and there has been no response so far. I guess there is probably something wrong. However, after all, we have found a place where the immortal king seal may exist, and we don't want to waste it, so we wondered if there is any way to go in and see the situation without endangering our lives. So, we thought of you. After all, you have a kind of clone that can be divided into countless. This kind of extra-legal clone, Wu Yu has shown in Chang'an, and they admire it very much. Understood. Wu Yu was also very curious about such a place, but he actually completed his goal, so he didn't want to go into a place where he couldn't get out and take risks. After all, he had more important things to do. He studied it for a bit, then said to everyone, "This thing doesn't look like a fairy weapon, and we don't know what it is, but there must be a fairy formation. It should be a door. Brothers and sisters, wait a moment, I'll go in and take a look." Okay. Wu Yu didn't go in with his true body. He already had millions of clones at this time. For the sake of caution this time, Wu Yu separated into 3 clones, then protected each other, got close to each other, fell from a high place, and smashed into the circle. Inside the ring, sure enough, when his 3 clones touched the water, it was not the real river surface, but the door of the ring. In an instant, Wu Yu passed through the door. The scenery in front of him changed, and in an instant, Wu Yu appeared in a new place. Of course, it was his 3 clones, not his true body. This place gave Wu Yu a strange feeling in an instant. That's because this place is completely different from heaven, but it is extremely huge. Only then did Wu Yu realize that the desolation, nausea, blood, corpse gas, etc. he felt on that river were all childish. It was just a small river, and what appeared now at Wu Yu's feet was endless. The vast ocean felt like it had no end from any angle, and the water was extremely deep. He didn't even know how deep it was. At least his clone couldn't see the end. Up, down, left, right, endless, the dim yellow sea water under your feet is motionless, without any waves, completely dead. Looking down, you can see a lot of corpses floating in the shallow sea, not to mention the deep sea. How many corpses will be hidden? Where is this? Wu Yu was a little dazed, because normally, if it were a secret realm hiding the immortal king's seal, it wouldn't be so huge. It would be like a real world. Before, even the secret realms like the 9th grade immortal king seal were not this huge. So he was a little confused for a while. And there's a major problem. For example, if he passes through the gate of the ancient demon world, the gate of the ancient demon world will take him to where he wants to go. But when he came over from the bronze ring, he found that he was the only one who came here, and there was no such bronze ring at all. So, when he came here, he looked around at a loss and didn't know how to get back. This shows that his true body did not come in, which is quite correct. Otherwise, who knows how much trouble he would have to go back. This shouldn't be a test place for the 10th grade Immortal King's seal, right? But the 10th grade Immortal King seal wouldn't be so obvious, and it wouldn't be discovered by Gu Moying and the others by such a coincidence. Wu Yu was a little excited. After all, if this 10th grade Immortal King seal was presented to him, he would still want it. However, he felt strange and unlikely. This vast sea is full of dead seas, eerie and terrifying, and the heaven and earth are full of the breath of ghosts and gods. This is a world completely opposite to heaven. Wu Yu reacted after being shocked. He quickly separated 3 clones and went around. At the same time, his body split into more than 30 clones and entered here. As expected, there was still no return. Wu Yu let these clones go to all parts of the world, and some even dived into the sea water below. Outside, Su Zidong and the others were asking, and Wu Yu described it truthfully. They were also stunned, not knowing what was going on. In the world inside, Wu Yu's clones have been completely scattered. His clones are equivalent to the cultivation level of Xianxian, which is quite powerful. Moreover, they are all proficient in the Realm Master's divine arts that Wu Yu is proficient in. Now the top Xianxian can basically compete with them. While walking and investigating, Wu Yu discovered that the corrosion, darkness, death, and other auras of this world far exceeded his imagination. What the hell is this place? He was also very confused. At this time, he suddenly saw a living person. He immediately chased after him, but the man's speed was not very fast. When he got closer, he realized that it was probably equivalent to the fairyland of immortality. But the key point is that this person is not a god, but a ghost. This was an old ghost and god from the immortal ghost realm. Wu Yu's clone quickly caught him. The other person immediately knelt on the ground and cried, "God, please spare Xiaoda's life." Wu Yu controlled him and asked, "Always answer my questions, otherwise I will kill you." "Okay, God, just ask." The guy was frightened. "Where is this?" Wu Yu asked. The other party raised his head in shock. At this time, he saw Wu Yu clearly. He was shocked and asked tremblingly, "Shang Shen, is he a god?" "Let you answer the question." Wu Yu glared at him. The ghost shivered and knelt down on the ground, saying, "God, are you kidding me? This is, of course, the first level of hell, the underworld hell. Heaven swallowing record." Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1384. Upon hearing this, Wu Yu was stunned. At this moment, the ghost seized the opportunity and ran away quickly, and Wu Yu did not catch him again. 8,000 heavens, 10,000 hells. Is this the 10,000 hells? This is absolutely unexpected. Heaven and hell are the 2 poles of the heavenly palace and the immortal realm. Among them, heavenly palace has the upper hand and is stronger than ghosts and gods. However, they are also incompatible with each other. They basically do not influence each other on weekdays, but there are also confrontations and confrontations. The 8,000 heavenly palace and the 10,000 levels of hell have their own passages, but it is absolutely impossible to reach the first level of the 10,000 levels of hell from a place like Taizhou Immortal Road. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. This is hell. How is that possible? Wu Yu still maintained an attitude of disbelief. He felt that this might be a scam, so his other clones were still looking for him. Soon, Wu Yu met other ghosts and gods. All of them were ghosts and gods, and they were basically immortal ghosts. Realm, few are in the Jixuan Dao realm. This is also consistent with the fact that this is the first level of hell. The first heaven is basically an immortal. In this way, Wu Yu's Xianxian can basically run rampant in this underworld. Next, Wu Yu did not directly ask where this place was, but after catching the ghosts and gods, he expressed sympathy and inferred through dialogue. For example, when someone meets him, they will be very surprised and ask, "God, why did you come to hell? Are you not afraid of death?" About a few days later, Wu Yu met dozens of ghosts and gods, visited many places, and even a group of ghosts and gods from the Nine Mysteries realm were chasing his clone. He even went outside the city of Yellow Spring Hell and looked inside. There are many ghosts and gods inside, and he is basically certain that this is a hell. Moreover, on these 10,000 levels of hell, there are passages to other hells, similar to the well of eternal life. Underworld hell. The first level of hell, how is that possible? When Wu Yu told them the news, they couldn't believe it, and they all looked at Wu Yu with wide eyes. Wu Yu talked about his experience inside. His clone had reached a very far place, which proved that the world was open enough. The previous secret realm of competition for the 9th grade Immortal King Seal was far from being this big. If it is really for an Immortal King Seal and the secret realm created is really that huge, then it can only be a 10th grade Immortal King Seal. However, Wu Yu felt that it was unlikely, because this place was full of ghosts and gods, and those senses of reality could not be created by humans. If he was not a god, and it was more obvious, he could try other hells. But he has already entered more than 100 clones, which is equivalent to more than 100 immortals. It has basically proven that this is hell. After hearing what Wu Yu said, Su Zidong and the others finally believed it. But they still find it incredible. It's really possible. If it's the door to hell, then there's no need for us to stay here. Wu Yu, what do you think of dealing with this thing? Su Zidong asked. Wu Yu thought for a while and said, after all, it is a strange thing. It might be useful in the future, so I'd better take it away. Okay, you can. But you still have to be careful. Wu Yu tried it and found that he could pack it away. He hid it in a separate sumuru bag and carried it with him. As for the hundreds of clones that went in, it seemed like there was no way they could come back. After Wu Yu packed up the bronze ring, the water in the river was finally clean, but the inside of the sumuru bag was very turbid. Everyone in Gumo camp was still in a state of surprise and shock. They looked at each other with some regrets. They originally thought they would get something. Could this be something that a strong person accidentally threw here? It's possible. What to do next? Keep hiding until the rest of the time is over. It was rare for Wu Yu to get together with them, but he still had important matters such as Nangong Wei. In order not to implicate them, Wu Yu was still prepared to leave. Leaving so soon? Wu Yu nodded and said, it's a little troublesome. It's easier for me to escape by myself, for fear of injuring you. Su Zidong said sternly, you're wrong. If something happens, let's all handle it together. We are not people who are greedy for life and afraid of death. Wu Yu smiled and said, you misunderstood, it won't be too dangerous. I am very good at escaping now. I can easily move around so that others can't find me. And everyone is suitable to hide in remote places. Su Zidong nodded and said, I do believe you have this ability. Okay, then we'll contact you through the immortal talisman. Wu Yu was ready to leave. Wait, Su Zidong stopped him. Wu Yu turned around and saw his serious attitude, saying, Wu Yu, we have been discussing for a long time, and we still think that the Immortal King Seal should be given to you. After all the credit belongs to you. We can't get this treasure for nothing. As brothers and sisters, I feel really sorry. If you don't accept it, it will be really hard for us and we deserve it. Unexpectedly, he was still struggling with this matter. Wu Yu smiled and said, you must not worry about this matter. To be honest, I have already obtained the Immortal King Seal. It is even better than last time. Now if you give it to me, it's useless to me. Really, everyone was greatly surprised. It's better than what I got last time, which is level 5 or above. Wu Yu, you are really capable and you are the pride of our ancient demon world. Wu Yu smiled and nodded. In this case, they wouldn't think too much and would be able to keep their Immortal King Seal with peace of mind. The best thing for them was to find a place to hide. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. After saying that, Wu Yu was ready to leave. A group of them left the cave and came to an empty underground space outside. They had gathered here before, and now they were preparing to separate here. But when Wu Yu was about to come out, he suddenly discovered that there was danger outside. Someone was outside. And the other party seems to be waiting for him and others to come out. You guys, are so lucky to get 2 5th grade Immortal King Seals. As soon as they came out, they heard someone talking from above, and a figure flashed in front of them with a sarcastic smile. Meaning? Who? Su Zidong and the others were very nervous and broke out in cold sweat. Obviously, they were a little carried away inside just now and spoke a little too loudly. Unexpectedly, there were people hiding outside and overheard their conversation. They were talking deep in the cave, and their voices could easily reach the entrance of the cave. Wu Yu glanced at the opponent with his golden eyes. This was an immortal king with a very majestic aura. He was definitely a formidable enemy. And what was different from ordinary immortals was that he seemed to have a special bloodline that allowed him to incomparably majestic flesh and blood, surpassing the demon god. And looking at the aura, it looks like a prehistoric beast. The ancient giant spirit god clan. When Wu Yu was in Chang'an Sanctuary, he saw the giant god and his son ancient Holmium god lord. They were both from the ancient giant spirit clan. At this time, the people who intercepted Wu Yu and the others were obviously from the ancient giant spirit clan. The spirit god clan is certainly not the terrifying ancient Holmium god lord, but looking at his aura, he is definitely the 9-realm immortal lord. Coupled with its special physique, its combat power is obviously quite powerful in this Taixu immortal road. Wu Yu could see clearly, and Su Zidong and the others could also see clearly. After a short evaluation, they all knew that this person was beyond their ability to deal with. The ancient Jiang God Lord. Even Su Zidong knew this person's identity. When he thought of his identity, the faces of the entire Gu Mo camp turned pale. Su Zidong quickly said, Wu Yu, let's form a formation to deal with him, you take the Immortal King Seal and escape. Of course they regretted it. They were a little excited and spoke a little loudly, so that the ancient Jiang God could hear them outside. Ancient Jiang God Lord said, there is no need to run away, I will not kill people. Of course, the premise is that you are well behaved and obedient, and give me 2 Immortal King Seals that are not of your level. To be honest, you are at your level. I'm too lazy to take action. But Su Zidong secretly asked Wu Yu to take the 2 Immortal King Seals away first. For them, the situation was now quite critical. It's impossible. If I take him away, he will kill you all to vent his anger. Wu Yu shook his head. But the Immortal King Seal we finally obtained is all your hard work. Do you want to give it to him? Su Zidong was unwilling to give up. If Wu Yu can still live, they at least think it is worth it. Wu Yu didn't panic. He smiled faintly and said, you guys are a little too nervous. Relax a little. I'll deal with him. Su Zidong was startled and said, don't underestimate the enemy. The ancient Jiang God Lord is a top powerhouse and the top God Lord of the ancient giant spirit god clan. How can you be his opponent? Before he finished speaking, Wu Yu passed him and said to the ancient Jiang Lord, if you want to get the Immortal King's Seal, you have to let me see if you are capable. The faces of everyone in Gu Mo camp turned even paler, but Lord Gu Jiang smiled and said, it seems that the world has changed. How dare a little guy like you dare to provoke me? It's strange. You are so ridiculous, how do you live to this day? Yes, with this little bit of IQ, it would be great to become an immortal. Obviously, Su Zidong and the others were still worried and nervous about Wu Yu. They were about to go up and attack with Wu Yu, but Wu Yu was faster. He didn't give Su Zidong and the others a chance, and went straight towards their opponents. The ancient Jiang God Lord was also completely unexpectedly, Wu Yu would be so bold. Court death. God Lord Gu Jiang actually wanted to get the two immortal king seals without making any noise. In this way, the immortal king seals are not the team's, but his own. Now he is the only one on this star to take away the immortal king seals. And no one knows. But if Wu Yu takes action, if there is a slight movement and others come over, it may be divided. This made him unhappy. Therefore, he became murderous and wanted to kill all these people quickly and accurately. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1385. Wu Yu. Seeing Wu Yu actually attack and intercept them, Su Zidong and the others were terrified. This is over. Why is he so impulsive? While thinking this, Wu Yu and the ancient Jiang God had already started a battle. The ancient Jiang God saw that this kid was the weakest and the lowest in the team, so he naturally despised him. If he hadn't heard that Wu Yu had the immortal king seal, he wouldn't bother to pay attention to him. Now Wu Yu holds the floating life sword, and both the immortal god and the flesh body have the power of the dual world, and both have reached the 4th level. To be honest, in terms of the might of the world, Wu Yu, relying on the great heavenly immortal art and the Vajra indestructible body, is not much worse than the 9 realms immortal king. And he also has various top-level heavenly Dao magical powers, which are definitely beyond the ancient Jiang God. At this time, he also wants to fight quickly, and the floating life sword instantly kills the immortal formation. A snow-white light, as fast as lightning, although separated by a distance, it also kills the ancient Jiang God in an instant. Whoosh! Gu Jiang Divine Lord was originally sneering and casually attacking, wanting to slap Wu Yu to pieces with one slap. However, he did not expect that Wu Yu's killing speed had exceeded his imagination during this period. For a moment, the immortal god was under great threat, and the crisis of death instantly enveloped his immortal god. Almost in an instant, the Fu Sheng sword was about to penetrate his immortal soul. This made Gu Jiang Divine Lord suddenly change color. This person actually hid his ability, so despicable. He wanted to play the pig and eat the tiger in front of me. This is what I left behind. His mind was furious, and his murderous intent increased again. At this time, he expected that Wu Yu's move alone would at least have the strength of the 8 realms immortal lord. Giant spirit transformation. At this critical moment, Gu Jiang Divine Lord was very experienced. He directly displayed the talent of their clan, which was a skill that every ancient giant spirit clan would use. Suddenly, his body became as huge as Wu Yu's Fa Tian Xiang Di, at least 10 feet high, extremely sturdy and huge, and bursting with the aura of the ancient times. This is an ancient clan above the heaven, and it is not an exaggeration to say that it is a clan of immortal beasts, because this 10-foot giant is actually their true body. At the moment of the body change, Wu Yu's Fu Sheng sword failed to hit the target, but still pierced a blood hole in his body. However, for the huge body of the ancient giant spirit clan, such a blood hole can only cause pain. This blood hole alone is enough to cause the ancient Jiang God to be furious. How dare you, you villains, hurt me? Today I will let you know what fear is. If you don't hand over the immortal king seal, all 9 of you will die. In order to get rid of Wu Yu and others as soon as possible and successfully obtain the immortal king seal, the ancient Jiang God was not arrogant. In the blink of an eye, he sacrificed and refined the immortal weapon of creation, which was a giant axe. Like it, it was extremely domineering, and when it was swung, there were traces of afterimages, which looked very strange. Although this giant axe was very heavy, it was actually swung at a terrifying speed. Be careful, his immortal weapon of creation, the momentary king axe. Su Zidong shouted from behind. It seems that he knows this person better. That's why his face is so panicked. At this time, they have formed a formation and decided to deal with the ancient Jiang god together with Wu Yu. Wu Yu asked them to stay honest, but they couldn't do it. Their attack was a bit troublesome for Wu Yu, and at this time, when the ancient Jiang god lord transformed into the giant of the ancient giant spirit clan, he sacrificed the momentary king axe. He blocked the momentary king axe in front of his face in a short time. Wu Yu and others could feel that a terrifying force was brewing behind the momentary king axe. Get out of the way. Wu Yu was shocked and shouted hurriedly. He himself was not afraid, but the key was that the target of the ancient Jiang god lord was obviously not himself. In this instant, he could only use the time-speed change fairy formation of the fusion tower to block everyone. And the next moment, the ancient Jiang god lord took away the momentary king axe, and suddenly, a divine light from the ancient times shone, and the light instantly illuminated the entire underground space. Except for the time within the range of the time-speed change fairy formation, which was changed by Wu Yu, the rest of the place had been swallowed up. However, the killing power of the Nine Realms Immortal Lord was so fierce that Wu Yu's hastily created time-speed immortal array could not stop it all. Even though Su Zidong and the others were resisting, they were soon broken. With a roar, they were also affected by the light and were seriously injured. Fortunately, although they were injured, no one died. Among them, Yang Wenlin and Wu Xiao were seriously injured and on the verge of life and death. If they hadn't been blocked for a while, they would have died. It was obviously unbearable for Wu Yu to have such a severe blow to his friend in front of him. Haha, he didn't die, let's do it again. The ancient Jiang god laughed wildly, and then he entered the rhythm he controlled. Wu Yu was angry, but the most important thing at this time was to protect them. Wu Yu covered the floating life tower above their heads and wanted to take them into the floating life tower. He had already opened up a third space in the floating life tower. Go in, Wu Yu said loudly. Su Zidong shook his head and said, no, we live together and die together. Wu Yu was anxious and roared, you don't have to die, I can deal with him, you guys heal your wounds first. Su Zidong still thought that Wu Yu wanted to survive alone. Wu Yu didn't have time to wait for him to make a decision. He directly attacked with a wave of exorcism. He controlled it very well and directly put them into a dazed state. Wu Yu they were brought into the fusion tower easily, and they were finally safe. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. However, they would inevitably get nervous and panicked inside, so Wu Yu let them see that he was really capable of fighting against this ancient Jiang god. However, the severe injuries suffered by Yang Wenlin and Wu Xiao also made Wu Yu murderous. When he had just protected everyone in Gumo camp, the ancient Jiang god lord had already attacked again. The ancient light engulfed the surroundings again, still erupting from his eyes. This was a magical power called the ancient god eye. This can't hurt you. It's very powerful. But a few others are probably dead, right? God Lord Gu Jiang saw Wu Yu in the light. Now, only Wu Yu is in front of him. At this time, Wu Yu's eyes were blood red, and the terrifying will of the sky-swallowing beast was already reflected in his body. It's been a long time since I had a hearty battle. Wu Yu originally thought that he would just use the heaven and earth magic, but facing such a powerful opponent, he felt that the heaven and earth magic was not enough. In the surprised eyes of the ancient Jiang god, Wu Yu showed the body of a sky-swallowing giant beast. This body was bigger than the opponent's giant. Of course, the pitch-black scales, the dazzling edge, the bone spurs all over the body, and the blood-red eyes look much scarier than the ancient Jiang god lord. It's actually a kind of fairy beast. No wonder it's so capable. But what kind of hybrid fairy beast are you? I've never seen it before. The ancient Jiang God Lord showed contempt. At this moment, Wu Yu's pitch-black body was covered with a layer of golden light, as if it was covered with a golden quilt. This is the power of the law, heaven and earth. Wu Yu has now basically been able to control it, changing the strength and speed without changing the size of his body. Because the real core of Fa Tian Xiangdi is not the size of the body, but the change in strength and speed. Against such an opponent, Wu Yu can surpass it even if his speed is reduced by 3 times. Therefore, he can completely defeat Fa Tian Xiangdi. Power, raised to the highest level, these are physical powers. World Lord Divine Realm, double 4th level. With the body of a giant beast that swallows the sky, he can control the sky and the earth. At this time, Wu Yu has become stronger than ever before. Only an opponent like the ancient Jiang God Lord can force him to show so many trump cards. Everyone in Gumo camp saw all this. At this time, Su Zidong also woke up a little. Qin Chuan said next to him, "Boss, Wu Yu seems to have changed a lot, maybe he can really." Before he finished speaking, Wu Yu was already fighting with the opponent. Although Wu Yu had the body of an immortal beast, he also held a huge floating sword, tearing the space at any time and fighting against the king's axe. On top, there is also a floating tower that changes time. The ancient giant spirit Protoss likes physical confrontation the most. In this aspect, they are much more than the fairy beasts. At this time, Wu Yu's attack hit him exactly right. The sky-splitting formation in a moment. The Great Splitting Universe formation. The instant King Axe also has the effect of tearing apart space. To be honest, it is more advanced than the fusion sword. At this time, when powerful forces compete, it depends on who is in control. In this underground space, the sky-swallowing giant beast held the floating sword and fought with the giant of the ancient giant spirit and god clan. One person held a sword and the other held a giant axe. The killing was earth-shaking, making the entire star riot and tremble, and the entire underground space. Suddenly the space between them has been destroyed, and under the sound of their battle, most of the stars are collapsing. This is simply a battle between two powerful prehistoric beasts. In the fusion tower, everyone in Gumoying was really eye-opening. At this time, everyone looked at each other. Yang Wenlin said angrily, "Boss, it's all your fault. Wu Yu is so powerful, and you still let us show off. If we had earlier hiding, how can I get hurt?" Wu. Su Zidong was very embarrassed. He chuckled and said, "Well, this kid is so perverted, I really can't guess." In fact, they were more shocked. At this time, the common voice in their hearts was, "Is what we encountered a monster? Otherwise, how could his progress be so terrifying? I remember when we first met, it seemed that Wu Yu could only deal with the immortal lords of the second realm at best, but now, he is fighting the immortal lords of the 9 realms, and they are also from the ancient giant spirit clan." They were completely relieved because they knew that with Wu Yu's strength, if he wanted to leave the battlefield, he could do so at any time, which meant that their lives were no longer in danger. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1386. Our little brother will definitely be a famous figure in heaven in the future. We are so lucky to have some friendship with him. What a blessing we have gained over several lifetimes. Taiwan Novel Network. Rightward arrow. After watching the battle for a while, Su Zidong sighed. They could only describe the battle outside as breathtaking. Impossible. Impossible. God Lord Guqiang was covered in sword marks all over his body. His whole body was numb now, and his opponent Wu Yu was covered in thick black scales. He only cut a few blood marks and had no effect on Wu Yu at all. And Wu Yu's sword energy was clashing inside his body. How can there be an immortal beast whose body is stronger than our ancient giant spirit clan? The ancient Jiang God Lord looked ugly. From the beginning of the war to now, his world power is so majestic that it surpassed Wu Yu, but he was still suppressed by Wu Yu. The ordinary immortal lord of the 9 realms is no match for him at all. But Wu Yu suppressed him in what he was best at. Go to hell. He went crazy again, using the stronger magic circle in the king's axe, brewing for a while, and then exploded. The peerless heavenly king destroys the immortal formation. The magic circle of King Axe at that moment was at least 800 million, much more than the fusion sword. Now it exploded with top-notch power, which was really terrifying. Within its vicinity, a large area was destroyed. Space and everything are shattering. Go to hell. This is probably his last anger. Being suppressed by Wu Yu in this way has driven him crazy and his dignity has been shattered. However, what resulted was Wu Yu's indifference. Wu Yu has been putting up with him for a long time. This guy is indeed difficult to deal with and cannot be killed no matter what, but at this time, Wu Yu has found a chance. Instant killing immortal formation. But this time, Wu Yu added a violent technique to once again increase his physical strength. In fact, the other party showed the peerless heavenly king's great destruction immortal formation, but this immortal formation was suppressed by the time-changing immortal formation and did not exert much power at all. Come. At this moment, Wu Yu rushed directly into the range of his magic circle. The ancient Jiang God Lord was already very confident and used the immortal formation of the king's axe to kill Wu Yu. Unexpectedly, at the critical moment, the immortal formation was disordered, causing he missed Wu Yu several times with his peak attacks. But Wu Yu is not affected by time, and time is under his control. At this moment, it is officially the violent moment of the ancient Jiang God. He has lost his normal mind. At this time, Wu Yu suddenly used violent techniques to increase his strength. In an instant, the king's axe of the opponent was knocked away. At this moment of extreme shock, the ancient Jiang God could only see Wu Yu moving as fast as lightning. The floating sword tore through the space, instantly penetrated his immortal world, and destroyed his immortal world. The core is shattered. No. At this moment of death, the only thing that could be heard was the guy's piercing screams and the sound of despair. His last look of disbelief was something Wu Yu had seen many times. Many people who had looked down on him were killed by him in the end. This was the look on his face. He's used to it. However, he was still very happy to defeat such a powerful opponent today, because such an opponent was basically the strongest in the Taixu fairyland. He has not been in heaven for a long time, but from now on, he has surpassed 3 major realms. Although Taixu Immortal Realm and Immortal Emperor Immortal are the dream realms of immortals, his speed is still terrifying. Originally, the devouring ability of the sky-swallowing giant beast is an ability that defies the heavens. Moreover, there is a wonderful creation artifact like the floating life tower, which is a perfect match. In the fusion tower, Gu Moying had already seen the death of the ancient Jiang God. In fact, Su Zidong originally wanted Wu Yu to kill him, but now it has happened. Wu Yu, this is truly incredible. We didn't know he had reached this level before. This guy is nothing short of a miracle. More people were speechless, because they all knew that monsters could no longer describe Wu Yu. They could only say that this might be a monster that would not appear in heaven for millions of years. Anyway, Wu Yu had already killed the ancient Jiang God Lord, and they all saw clearly. Wu Yu, it's not good to offend the ancient giant spirit god clan. What if the ancient Holmium God Lord sets his sights on you? Su Zidong was still a little worried when he thought of the ancient Holmium God Lord, and then thought of the ancient giant spirit god behind the ancient Holmium God Lord. That's the Jade Emperor's general. Wu Yu smiled and said, "Brothers and sisters, don't worry, I will take care of it." You can rest for a while first. He closed the floating life tower, because next, he wanted to devour him. As long as he left any traces of him, he might be found by the ancient giant spirits and gods. That would be really troublesome, so he would devour his defeated generals till they were dry. Clean, such a huge body contains a lot of flesh and blood essence. In addition to replenishing his own strength, Wu Yu transferred most of the other parts directly to the new million clones, allowing those million clones to continue to transform. He used the body of a giant sky-devouring beast to devour the ancient Jiang Divine Lord in a short time. Wu Yu was not very interested in his arrival or memory. Anyway, the Nine Worlds Immortal Lord was of little help to him now. Unless it can swallow the Immortal King, but this is definitely impossible. He did collect the momentary King Axe, and found 2 Immortal King Seals in the opponent's Sumeru bag, 1 4th grade Immortal King Seal and 1 5th grade Immortal King Seal, both of which were of very good quality. Wu Yu kept them first to see if he could give them to others in the future. This is a treasure of the Taixu artifact level, and there will always be people who need it. After finishing it, he dealt with the scene again, and finally cleared all the traces. Then he used the law of heaven and earth to become smaller, controlled the somersault cloud, and quickly left here, disappearing in the blink of an eye. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. The gate of hell taken away here still exists, and Wu Yu's hundreds of clones in the Yellow Spring Hell are still wandering, but Wu Yu can no longer make these clones stronger. After all, the distance to the 10,000 hells is too far, and Wu Yu can't make these clones return. Of course, these hundreds of clones are a drop in the bucket compared to his millions of clones. I saw it. Suddenly heard the voice of Fire Dance Phoenix Lord. She slowly woke up from her deep sleep. Wu Yu stopped and let his clone move forward. He entered the floating life tower. Huo Wu Huangjun was imprisoned and unable to move. She looked a little haggard and looked at Wu Yu. What did you see? Wu Yu asked her. In fact, Wu Yu knew that because he didn't want to worry Gu Moying before, he opened the vision of the floating life tower when he asked them to watch the battle outside, and she should have woken up at this time. See you, the good brother of Gu Ru Shenjun, Gu Jiang Shenjun. Huo Wu Huangjun raised her head. Although her face was a little haggard, she still couldn't hide her peerless beauty. Wu Yu stood in front of her, his eyes piercing hers, and said, "You really shouldn't have seen that. If you didn't know I was Wu Yu, I might have let you go after I had enough fun. Now that you know so much, I can't let you leave here alive." Huo Wu Huangjun's eyes struggled, she was terrified, and she had been numb for thousands of years. At this time, she was in a trance. She could only laugh, and then said, "My mother has great magical powers. I can only say that if you kill me in the end, then you will definitely be miserable, and she is not a kind person. Now, you can't imagine your end at all, because you can't imagine how much she loves me. What would happen to him if he killed her?" Wu Yu didn't expect that because he was thinking of a way, he would not kill her. If he killed her, Nangong Wei would have no hope at all. So he smiled, just as a joke, and didn't respond. As for the matter of Gu Jiang Shenjun, Wu Yu was not worried. She knew a lot, and she didn't need another Gu Jiang Shenjun. Fire Dance Phoenix Lord's eyes were filled with flames, burning. She looked Wu Yu up and down, and said in disbelief, "I don't believe it." "What don't you believe?" Wu Yu asked. "I don't believe that a mortal can kill the ancient Jiang god in just 100 years. This has never happened in the history of the entire heavenly court. I don't believe it." Because she had a lot of Nangong Wei's memories, she knew very well how old Wu Yu was. And Su Zidong and the others would never have thought of it. "I have this time-changing magical device, and I already have 100 times the time. That's only 10,000 years, or even less. This is impossible in the heavenly court." Wu Yu smiled and said, "Then what do you want? I am better than you." Even if you are the daughter of the original Phoenix Emperor, you are not worthy of carrying my shoes. Fire Dance Phoenix Lord couldn't refute it. She originally thought that Wu Yu had plotted against her to imprison her, but he had defeated the ancient Jiang god. This was obviously not a plot, but she was really terrible. Looking at his appearance, Huo Wu Huangjun suddenly thought, I originally thought that it was an ordinary Wangjian Xianjun who had possessed me for 1,000 years and did all kinds of bad things to me, so I was so desperate, but I didn't expect that this person was such a genius, a peerless evildoer, even surpassing the descendants of the Emperor Immortals, and his appearance and personality were top-notch, so is he worthy of me. When she thought of this, her face turned red and she felt ashamed for herself. No matter how outstanding this person was, he had forcibly possessed her, and he deserved to die. If he was not a genius, not a useless middle-aged Xianjun, he would not have committed a crime. But he obviously likes another person. Why did he treat me like this? This person is hypocritical, fickle, and can't control himself. He is not a good thing. She is upset now. Facing such a young and cruel man who had imprisoned and possessed her for thousands of years, and with whom she had so much love, hate and entanglement, it was hard for her not to feel any change in her mood as she looked at Wu Yu like this, and she even felt a little longing. She just didn't know that this was the state of the sky-devouring beast after Wu Yu had devoured it. Although it was suppressed by the Ruyi Jinggubang, it still had a strong urge to reproduce. At this time, Wu Yu had infinite charm, so she had so many wild thoughts. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1387. Nameless Stars. This star is in ruins, with broken rocks everywhere, dry and without water. Particularly, half of it had almost completely collapsed, forming a huge deep pit. By this time, the dust had dispersed. At this time, a group of uninvited guests descended from the sky. Their team was huge, with more than 400 people in total, all of whom were top immortal lords. Their aura was extremely thick and majestic, and the strength of the entire team was suffocating. Especially the leader, with his indifferent expression and majestic appearance, he is an extraordinary person at first glance, and he is definitely the pride of heaven. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Especially his eyes, the golden pupil of the left eye is like forged metal, shining and hard and sharp, while the right eye is shining with black flames, weird and terrifying, with the aura of death. Young Master, the ancient Jiang Divine Lord came to this star in the end. I don't know why, but he lost news after that one of the bald Han immortal lords half knelt in front of the ancient Holmium Divine Lord and said very respectfully. The ancient Holmium God looked calm. He looked at the star and said nothing for the time being. The bald immortal lord said, actually, I guess that the ancient Jiang Lord may be in danger. Otherwise, we have sent so many messengers, how could there be no response? And we are all here. In fact, this is what everyone thinks. I know, you don't need to say more. With one word from the ancient Holmium God, he told him to shut up and quickly retreat into the group. At this time, the ancient Holmium God called, and in the void, in a halo of light, a black puppy ran out. The puppy was very agile, especially between the eyebrows. There was a third upright eye. It was serious. At that time, it was still very impressive. It turned out to be the roaring sky dog. Everyone was horrified. I didn't expect that the young master would actually bring the roaring dog in. This is the roaring dog given to the young master by the Erlang True God, and it is the descendant of the roaring dog beside the Erlang True God. When the black puppy appeared for the first time, more than 400 immortal kings were surprised. The ancient Holmium God never let the roaring dog come out, so they didn't know about it before. Xiao Cao, go and have a look. Ouch. The ancient Holmium God touched his head, which made the little roaring dog very excited. After rubbing the ancient Holmium God's legs and turning around, he spread his legs and walked towards the stars. Now everyone laughed. Okay, now, with Roaring Sky Dog leading the way, with his heaven-defying nose, we can find more immortal king seals, and even find the 10th grade immortal king seal for the young master. Yes, the Roaring Sky Dog is a top-notch immortal beast. The control range of its nose can reach most of the Taegzu Immortal Road. I didn't expect the young master to be so patient. It took more than 20 years before he let the Roaring Dog come out. I guess we should let Roaring Sky Dog grow up for a while. After all, Xiaoao is still young and needs to grow up. With this Roaring Sky Dog, you can find the ancient Jiang God Lord wherever he is. With this little black dog, the people of the ancient giant spirit god clan were relieved. They looked at the ancient Holmium God Lord and the Roaring Sky Dog with great envy. Only with the identity of the young master, the aloof and unfaithful Erlang true God, would give him the Roaring Heavenly Dog. With this Roaring Heavenly Dog, at least treasure hunting and searching for people are no longer a problem. The little black dog circled around the stars in the eyes of everyone, then came back with a bang, received a fairy delicacy, and ate it. Dead. Suddenly, the face of the ancient Holmium god became ugly, and the terrible evil energy on his body came out all at once. Even the little Holmium was startled, and he tucked his tail between his legs and shivered. What? Everyone's expressions also changed. What God Lord Gu Holmium just said, as well as his reaction, clearly illustrate this point. Who dares to kill our giant spirit clan? The ancient Holmium God Lord roared in a low voice, his eyes very fierce. The black flames and golden eyes are very scary. Xiao Hao, don't be afraid. God Lord Gu Holmium held the black puppy in his arms and whispered, take me to find the person who killed him. Woof woof woof, the black puppy responded, then spread its legs, faster than the average immortal king, and was already chasing in one direction. God Lord Ancient Holmium followed, and the immortal kings behind did not dare to approach, because they all knew that God Lord Ancient Jiang had a good relationship with the young master. The two of them almost grew up together and were brothers. Now, Lord Ancient Jiang was actually killed. Well, for them, the young master must be furious. If they come forward now, it is possible for the young master to be killed. Of course, they were also quite annoyed. Who is it? Those who dare to kill us. How audacious! Other immortal kings will hide away when they see us. This person definitely doesn't know that there is this Roaring Sky Dog beside our young master. He thinks that he can get away with it after dealing with the traces, but he doesn't know that as long as he is on the Taegzu Immortal Road, he can't escape our dragnet. The entire giant spirit clan, under the leadership of the ancient Holmium god, was moving in the direction that Wu Yu had left before. The black dog was very smart and almost followed the route and pace that Wu Yu left. Basically not big. The Roaring Sky Dog must be very powerful. If you let him chase the murderer, he will be overqualified. They did not dare to carry it away to see the ancient Holmium god, because the evil spirit on his body was too heavy. Guess what the young master will do after the murderer is caught? Haha, what do you think? Wu Yu moved forward all the way, and he moved very quickly. In order to avoid possible chases, he often even used somersault clouds to jump through space to move across a long distance at once. After all, the entire team of the ancient Holmium god could be the pursuers. And this time, he moved forward at a very fast speed, basically crossing half of the Taegzu Immortal Road, and completely transferred to the other side. Wu Yu felt relieved and let Su Zidong and the others come out and make their own way. Originally, Wu Yu wanted to let them follow him until the end of the century. But then I thought about it, I got into trouble with Lord Huo Wuhuang. After I got out, my life or death was uncertain. The better the relationship between them and me, the more dangerous they were. Moreover, now that I had killed the Lord of Ancient Jiang, they were with me all the way. It is very likely to implicate them. Therefore, Wu Yu chose this place far away from the previous place and asked them to come out. Su Zidong's idea is that they can't interfere with Wu Yu's adventure. A group of them can hide now and wait for the 100 years to pass. Brother, take care. Take care of yourself. After separation, they went to find a hiding place on their own. They were very low-key and didn't seem to have the seal of the Immortal King, so they were not very dangerous. Wu Yu, on the other hand, went in another direction and hid, because his main target was still Lord Xuanhuan. He was on the road during this period, so Wu Yu didn't pay much attention to her. Maybe it's been a long time, and Lord Xuanhuan is unhappy again. Let me tell you the truth, she is already dead. It is impossible for me, the Nirvana Master of Phoenix Ancestor, to give her any hope of survival. You'd better give up. She is not smart. A smart person will give Wu Yu hope at this time, so that Wu Yu will not really kill him. Of course, she also has her own emotions and anger. She is such a proud girl, never thought that she would have such a day. She was tortured by Wu Yu, so she naturally wanted to torture Wu Yu, because she knew that the more desperate Wu Yu became about Nangong Wei, the more painful he would be. Seeing him in pain, her goal was achieved. Haha, how does this feel? I killed her right then. What can you do to me? Kill me? Are you willing? Maybe there is still hope for her to survive, haha, Lord Xuanhuang said to his emotions, it's very complicated, sometimes her eyes are weird, sometimes she's very hateful. Pa, Wu Yu slapped her hard, making half of her face red and swollen. Shut up. She was thinking of new ways. Shut up, haha. No one has ever slapped me, you are the first. Pa, Wu Yu gave it one more time and said, in that case, from the second to the millionth one, it's all me. What can you do to me? You, Lord Xuanhuang was so angry that she burst into tears. No matter how beautiful her face was, she was still charming at this time. She looked at Wu Yu with anger and hatred, and roared regardless of her appearance, you are dead. Those friends of yours, everyone who knows you must die. Including Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi. And that one named Luo Ben, I will find countless men to kill her. Wu Yu was also angry. He quarreled with this woman every day and couldn't find a way to save Nangong Wei. Of course he was irritated. Now he was forced to panic. He used the exorcism technique again and hit her immortal god hard. This time, Lord Xuanhuang didn't faint. She was in a daze, but she still sneered and said, here we go again. Can you stop sneaking in like this every time? If you have the guts, just be fair and let me see you. How come you still want me to get pregnant? It's been more than 1,000 years, why haven't you done it once? Are you crazy? Looking at her like this, she looked like a crazy woman. Now that Wu Yu thought of Nangong Wei's complete death, he really felt murderous. Everyone has emotions. He opened his eyes wide and looked at this fire dance. Phoenix Lord used several exorcisms in succession, bombarding her mind and almost shattering her immortality. Wu Yu, don't kill her. There must be hope. Wu Yu suppressed his hatred until Ming Long kept reminding him. At this time, Lord Xuanhuang had fainted and fell to the ground. Wu Yu never expected that she could get up this time. At this time, she slowly raised her head. Wu Yu suddenly saw tears in her eyes. She looked at Wu Yu like this, her face was full of tears. How pitiful she looked. Wu Yu didn't care at all, and was about to laugh at her fate, but the look in her eyes at this time made Wu Yu feel a little nervous, because Lord Xuanhuang had never looked like this before. Wu Yu, after all, you are the only one who will save me. She trembled and looked at Wu Yu. Wu Yu was stunned and said angrily, how dare you imitate her to fool me? She looked at her body blankly, not knowing how to respond. But this look made Wu Yu's heart tremble. Suddenly, her eyes changed several times in succession. Within a short period of time, the irritable mood returned. She stared at Wu Yu and cursed angrily, "Why don't you come? Are you scared?" Wu Yu's whole heart was trembling. At that moment, was she the one who controlled Huo Wuhuang Jun's body? Under the influence of his continuous use of exorcism techniques to bombard his immortal gods for thousands of years. There are no words to describe his excitement at this moment. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1388. Even at this time, the Fire Dance Phoenix Lord was insulting, mocking, and hysterical towards him. Wu Yu was still surrounded by surprise and excitement. It can't be an illusion. He clearly saw the change in her eyes. This change could not be fake. At the same time, the sadness, sorrow, and various emotions in her eyes at that moment were not false. Lord Huahuang is not her, and it is impossible for him to have the look in her eyes. What he is now ecstatic about is, didn't he find a way by accident? Lord Huahuang's current immortal god is already very fragile. If she continues to attack, she and Nangongwei will be killed. Wu Yu calmed down. He left the fusion tower and no longer appeared in front of his eyes. Lord Huo Wuhuang was still scolding and taunting her, but she also knew that the immortal god had been severely injured and needed to recover. Wu Yu didn't know why. If she left at this time, of course she would have to work hard to survive. I didn't expect to be such a coward and run away like this. Little did she know that Wu Yu was silently enduring among the stars in the sky outside. It's really possible that it's the exorcism technique. So far, you've used the exorcism technique on her tens of thousands of times. Every time she's under such a shock, it's a miracle that she doesn't go crazy. This shows that, there must be traces of Nangongwei among her immortals. Maybe you can rescue her, Ming Long said. Wu Yu thought so too. As soon as she recovers a bit, I'll keep trying. 1 day outside is 100 days inside. A few days later, Wu Yu returned to the fusion tower. Lord Huo Wuhuang had almost recovered. "You bastard, how dare you come in," Lord Huahuang sneered. Wu Yu didn't bother to say more to her. As soon as he came up, he was directly hit by the exorcism technique. She was heavily controlled by Wu Yu's various creation artifacts, and she couldn't resist at all. She could only bear it once. Wu Yu did not use the floating fairy dream to put her to sleep, but kept her in a dizzy state, constantly impacting her fairy god. Lord Huahuang was going crazy. She didn't expect Wu Yu to torture her so much during this period. What she hated most was the exorcism technique, but now Wu Yu specifically used this exorcism technique to deal with her. "You will not die well." Her voice was broken in this dizziness. Wu Yu controlled a degree, that is, he could not kill her, at least give her room to recover. At first, the person Wu Yu expected did not show up, which made him a little anxious. Time passed day by day. "Don't worry, you've been waiting for me for 1,000 years, so why worry about these few days?" Ming Tong reminded him. "However, when do you really have to favor this little girl? People think you have had relationships with her tens of thousands of times. If you don't touch her, you will suffer a loss." Sure enough, saying such things is the nature of Ming Long. Wu Yu was still training patiently. When she recovered a little, he was about to curse and give her another exorcism spell, causing her fairy formation to shake and become confused. The tens of thousands of exorcism spells before had not killed Nangongwei by mistake. It is unlikely now, because the one holding out has always been the Fire Dance Phoenix Lord. The more times she went, the more Wu Yu failed to show up. It was impossible for Wu Yu not to be disappointed and nervous. This probably meant that his method was probably not correct. But he really had no other choice but to persist again and again to pursue the only hope. At this point, he has no way out. Once the 100 years of the Taixu Immortal Road are over, he will definitely have to kill the Fire Dance Phoenix Lord to save his life when facing the Yuanzhou Phoenix Emperor. At that time, it was equivalent to him having to kill Nangongwei's hope. In short, he was very indifferent to Lord Huang, and he struck again and again, leaving her wandering on the edge of life and death. Wu Yu was tired of it and completely lost hope. Suddenly, after an exorcism, she suddenly calmed down in the chaos. Her whole temperament changed dramatically in a short period of time. Her temperament, the arrogant and domineering air, the pampered aura, disappeared instantly, replaced by Wu Yu's familiar feeling. So at this time, even if she didn't speak, Wu Yu was ecstatic, knowing that she had finally appeared. Wire, Wu Yu was right in front of her, looking at her excitedly. He really wants to know, is she still alive? The woman with peerless appearance in front of her raised her head, and Wu Yu saw her trembling eyes. Perhaps for her, seeing Wu Yu again was the most incredible thing in the world. The look in her eyes, there is always something different about people who are so complicated, so heartbroken, and who experience despair in life and death. She stretched out her hands and suddenly hugged Wu Yu, leaning on his chest. Although she didn't cry bitterly, she shed tears. The tears were really sad. It had been a long time since she looked so pitiful. After all, she has always been stubborn. I thought I was dead and would never have another chance to see you. I didn't expect. She was sobbing, and it was difficult to speak. In the end, she couldn't speak anymore, and finally cried out, just like the little girl who dared to love and hate. She cried loudly, hugging Wu Yu tightly with both hands, and held her tightly with all her strength. With her current strength, ordinary immortals would be strangled to death by her. Now in Wu Yu's arms, she was like a child after escaping from death. Wu Yu could feel her fear and trembling, and her whole body was trembling again. At this time, the fear and despair she had been feeling for so long were released, and she was crying bitterly. Hold me, I'm scared, she said confidently in a low voice. Wu Yu thought for a while and took her into his arms. At this time, she was really pitiful and fragile and needed this kind of support and protection. While Wu Yu was happy and excited, he also needed to stay rational, because Nangongwei could come out just now, but it didn't mean that she would always be there. After Wu Yu hugged her, her crying and emotional release had passed for a while. Wu Yu said, "Do you know what's going on? Is there any solution? I will definitely find a way to keep you alive, so you must calm down as soon as possible and provide me with information." This was the real way to keep her alive. Anyway, Wu Yu didn't want her to lose everything like this. Okay, she was a little dazed at first, and then she firmed up. Wu Yu hadn't hugged her like this for a long time. Unfortunately, this was not her body, or her body was just a part of it. She had better take the initiative first. Coming out of his arms, she obviously knew that Wu Yu had another person in his heart, and that he could save her was a deep-seated feeling. You probably know about the nirvana of the phoenix ancestor. My mother didn't know that the phoenix egg she gave me actually existed like this. Therefore, I was taken away and she was killed. I hate them. Then I went to the heavenly palace, and my uncle was devoured and refined by the fire dance phoenix lord. Maybe I am a part of it, but I have my own mind, so I don't know how I ended up in her immortal god. There can be some consciousness here. It was related to her future, so she had to force herself to calm down and endure it so that she could speak as clearly as possible. Wu Yu understood that she was now in a form of consciousness, and she didn't even know how she existed among the immortals. Maybe it's because the fusion of Huo Wu Huang Jun is not clean enough, or there is a certain flaw in the Phoenix Ancestors' Nirvana method. After all, what Huo Wu Huang Jun wants to fuse is her unconscious accompanying Phoenix egg. How did you come out? Wu Yu asked the most critical question. Nangongwei tried hard to control her emotions, but tears were still streaming down her face. She grabbed the corner of Wu Yu's clothes. Maybe this would make her feel a little safer, but she still trembled and looked at him as if asking for help. Wu Yu, Wu Yu knew that she was still in extreme fear, so he still stretched out his arms, hugged her tightly, and said, "Don't be afraid, speak slowly, I can only save you if I tell you how to do it. Calm down." With Wu Yu in his arms, she felt a sense of security. The warm feeling was real. She held Wu Yu's fingers with extra force, which showed how much her mood was fluctuating now. I don't know. In the past, I could only think but couldn't move even if I had a little bit of consciousness. I only knew that I was in her immortal god. Her immortal god was incomparably huge, like a huge world. To me, she is a giant beast among the gods. Her consciousness is enough to kill me many times, but I am too small and she cannot see me. I think I will eventually perish completely. Dissipated. Then, she looked at Wu Yu excitedly and said excitedly, "I don't know when, this huge immortal god began to vibrate. Every time it vibrated, the giant beast-like existence would wail. The sound, and at the same time, her body would break into many pieces and fragments. Those fragments were too big for me, but one day, I met a fragment smaller than me, only a little bit, I touched it subconsciously, and then found that I could fuse it. Then, I became a little bigger, and my originally chaotic consciousness became a little clearer. I don't know why she was like this, but now I am. Got it, it must be because of you." With Wu Yu in his arms, her panic finally calmed down a little, and she could speak clearly, and this information was very important to Wu Yu. Of course he knew why her immortal deity had such a change. At that time, Wu Yu's exorcism spells caused her immortal deity to tremble, causing Huo Wuhuangjun's consciousness to collapse and separate into fragments. Although after she recovers, she reunites, but she will be weakened after all. "Then what?" Wu Yu asked. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1389. She became calmer and calmer, could speak clearly, and even got a little excited, saying, "Next, every once in a while, her immortal god will suffer an impact, and it will split into pieces, and often after the impact, she will be put into a deep sleep again by some kind of magic. When she is asleep, I can move freely, and I will fuse those fragments again and again." Then, I got bigger and bigger, and it happened over and over again, reaching tens of thousands of times, and I was 1/10 of her size, but she still didn't notice me. In the past few days, her immortal god has been continuously impacted and has been in a state of collapse. I took the opportunity to quickly fuse it. Now it should be equivalent to 1/3 of hers, then, as her immortal god it collapsed to the point of destruction. Her consciousness was blocking the front and seemed to be in a state of fragmentation. Suddenly, I took control of this body and saw you. What she said was quite incredible to Wu Yu. For example, Wu Yu's immortal god must have only one consciousness, so his consciousness is his immortal god. But she is different. Before, she was just a tiny bit of residual consciousness in the immortal god of fire dance Phoenix Lord. However, she did not expect that Wu Yu accidentally collided with the two immortal techniques of exorcism and immortal dream. Actually made her in a constant state. Until now, it is almost equivalent to 1/3 of Huo Wuhuangjun. As for Huo Wuhuangjun himself, she also feels that her immortal god is her own consciousness itself, which may be important to Huo Wuhuangjun. For her, Nangongwei's part was a part of her that had not been absorbed back after she was broken. She never thought that this part would have its own consciousness, and it would belong to her companion Phoenix Egg. After all, this is an unprecedented situation. Of course, one day, she should find out. When his immortality is seriously injured, his consciousness collapses, or he falls into a deep sleep, because your second consciousness is strong enough, you can temporarily seize control of the immortality and the physical body. This is just like our physical body. It's a ship. When the helmsman is bombarded and falls into a coma, the second person on the ship can also come up to take the helm. The truth should be like this, and her consciousness controls the immortal God every time, so every time I attack another immortal, she is the one who bears the brunt, not you. Now, everything is clear. Wu Yu was only pleasantly surprised. He really didn't expect that it would be the exorcism technique that allowed her to grow to the point where she could control her body. Otherwise, even if the Fire Dance Phoenix Lord's immortal consciousness collapsed, she wouldn't be able to regain this tiny bit of consciousness. Come take control of your body. If Wu Yu hadn't used the combination of exorcism and fairy dreams tens of thousands of times to examine her body and find ways to find traces of her, she wouldn't have been able to grow stronger bit by bit. Now that Wu Yu understands the situation, he will definitely make Nangong Wei stronger, until one day he will completely suppress the fire-dancing Phoenix Lord. Only then can she be truly brought back to life. What should I do next? Wu Yu knew that she had grown to 1/3 of the opponent's size, so she must have figured out a way. Nangong Wei stared into his eyes. Perhaps Wu Yu was her only support at this time. Her eyes became firm and she said, I think, although I have grown a lot these days, it is easy for her to find out that I have her self-awareness is no longer a part of her that is broken and cannot be healed. Therefore, I still follow the previous method and let her fall asleep after the impact. While she is sleeping, I can safely fuse her other fragments and continue to grow. I can control my body for a short time, but if I control my body, it will be easily discovered by her, so I'd better hide inside. She was fighting guerrilla warfare. Yes, she had been among the gods for 1,000 years, longer than her life in the mortal world. She obviously knew better than Wu Yu how to protect herself. And now Wu Yu finally knows how to truly bring her back to life. The most important thing is that the Fire Dance Phoenix Lord cannot know the existence of her consciousness for the time being. Otherwise, she is still much stronger than Nangong Wei, and it is easy to if you destroy Nangong Wei, you will miss the mark. Then you'd better not come out, Wu Yu whispered. Nangong Wei looked up at him, with a look of reluctance in her eyes. She had been there for too long, so she felt extremely aggrieved and uncomfortable. During the time she came out, she felt the temperature outside. Of course she was reluctant to leave, but in order to truly survive, the longer she stayed, the greater the danger. Okay, she hugged Wu Yu's waist tightly with both hands, refusing to let go, and then said, this body itself has a part of me. I must take back what belongs to me. I will never let you go again. Disappointed in me, brother? Her last tone was particularly strong. The last two words, for Wu Yu, felt a bit like a boy in a dream. Suddenly, she looked like the little girl when he first met him. When Wu Yu first met her, she was still too young. Following him, calling him brother, his eyes and voice were like this today. Maybe this life and death has changed her. Once in Xuanhuan immortal sect, she was so arrogant because of her mother's death. Even after becoming Princess Huang 11, she still refused to accept herself and wanted to go against herself. But today, she finally understands that only Wu Yuki saved her again and again and gave her hope in the most desperate moments. This kind of kindness cannot be expressed clearly in just 1 or 2 words of thanks. Wu Yu was a little confused. After all, he had decided to go back and marry Luo Bin. But no matter what, he still had to make Nangong Wei come back to life according to the original plan. In other words, if Nangong Wei didn't become the Fire Dance Phoenix Lord, he would probably die. After all, the Yuanzhu Phoenix Emperor was the immortal Emperor Immortal. When she finished speaking and closed her eyes, she seemed to have lost consciousness and fell limply into Wu Yu's arms. But suddenly, her whole body became stiff again, and then she immediately opened her eyes. At this time, Wu Yu could see the nine-color anger burning in her eyes, burning. Wu Yu was still holding her, skin to skin, and she woke up at the right time. Lord Xuanhuan had doubts during this period, suspecting that Wu Yu had not touched her at all. But when she saw Wu Yu touching her so tightly and holding her so tightly, her doubts disappeared. She knew this guy has changed a lot recently. He doesn't let himself fall asleep like before. He must be tired of playing. She was still under the control of various creation artifacts, so she could only push Wu Yu away with all her strength, covering her plump chest, and said anxiously and angrily, "You beast! You! Now that Fire Dance Phoenix Lord is in control of the body, Nangongwei should hide." Nangongwei left a little late just now. Wu Yu was worried that the Fire Dance Phoenix Lord might find her, so he decided to stimulate her and divert her attention so that Nangongwei could retreat safely. Continue to lie dormant, waiting for opportunities. He then smiled and said, "What's there to hold on to? With these two babies, I've almost been sick from playing with them all these years. What kind of touch do I don't know? Shut up." Lord Xuanhuang's face was red, angry, and his whole body was about to smoke. He was disgusted and irritable, and of course he was deeply afraid of Wu Yu. "Don't be ashamed. You are not a little girl anymore. You have experienced hundreds of battles." Wu Yu stimulated her, so that she would react the most, and the danger to Nangongwei would be smaller. He kept talking, dozens of sentences in a row. Huang Jun was so angry that he almost fainted. In a short period of time, she wanted to heal the immortal, but it was difficult. Speaking of the latter part, she was about to cry without tears. Wu Yu stepped forward and used the exorcism technique again, which dispelled her consciousness that had finally gathered a little. The Fire Dance Phoenix Lord fell into a dizzy state again. Didn't you just come here?" Lord Xuanhuang was trembling all over. "Our child is not here yet, so of course I have to continue," Wu Yu sneered. Then, he cast the floating fairy dream to make her gradually fall asleep. Why do you have to let Yao fall asleep every time and then? You are too noisy. I hate noisy women." Lord Xuanhuang didn't know what to expect after hearing this response, so he fell into a deep sleep. When she fell asleep, Wu Yu put away his previous sneer. He was certainly not the kind of person he showed just now. "I'm sorry, Lord Xuanhuang. I have no friendship with you. It's you, the Phoenix Ancestor Nirvana Master, who wants to kill my friend. If one of you has to die, then of course I will choose you to die. This matter may be an arrangement of fate. Many things cannot be distinguished from right to wrong, but Wu Yu will definitely stand from his own point of view. This is the meaning of cultivating Taoism. It does not mean that this Fire Dance Phoenix Lord does not seem to be anything big. Wu Yu would have to watch Nangongwei being killed by her. Now that Fire Dancer Phoenix is asleep, she should be able to continue and slowly take advantage of this time to strengthen herself. Next, I will let Fire Dancer Phoenix sleep all the time, and occasionally give me the exorcism technique. Before the end of these more than 70 years, it will definitely grow to the point where it can completely crush the Fire Dance Phoenix Lord. Actually, as long as he is stronger than Lord Xuanhuang, it is Lord Xuanhuang who is in danger. Now Nangongwei is only 1/3 of the Fire Dance Phoenix Lord, so Nangongwei must hide. The most important thing now is to continue and endure until the two are equal, then she can take a breather. Wu Yu is already very happy. He has spent more than 1,000 years without hope. Now he finally has hope and a way. Moreover, he has also obtained the 9th grade Immortal King seal here. He still has more than 70 years to go. He has gained a lot. For him, it went well. I didn't expect that there would be a gate leading to the underworld here. If it weren't for the fact that I could only go there and not be able to return, I could let Zixi go there and make a living. Nanshan Wanjiao said with emotion. Now that Wu Yu has told them what happened, they are relieved. I don't want it. It's dark and smelly over there. It's so nice over here, Yezixi said. Haha, you can do it, old Wu. Once you rescue Nangong Wei, you can have 2 boats. Don't talk nonsense, Wu Yu said righteously. Don't be shy. It's normal for successful men like us to have hundreds of thousands of confidants. Today is Friday. This weekend, let's go crazy again and have another explosive event. Event details. Open WeChat, add friends, click official account, search for my pen name Feng Qingyang, read these 3 words clearly, and click to follow. As of 12 o'clock on Sunday night, the net number of new followers was 1,500, and 5 chapters broke out on Monday, reaching 2,000, and 6 chapters broke out on Monday. Reached 3,000, 7 chapters broke out on Monday. If you haven't followed it yet, please follow it now. The madman is not going to rest for the past 2 days. He will stay up late coding again to prepare for Monday. Let's work hard together. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 1390. In the boundless starry sky, a vast army was flying past. There were only more than 400 people, but they had the posture of 1,000,000 immortals. Wherever they went, even the surrounding stars were shaking. This was the ancient giant spirit clan, a wealthy family in the heavenly court. The face of the ancient Ruo god was as calm as an ancient well, and in front of him was the roaring sky dog flying in the air. The roaring sky dog barked while moving forward, and its speed was no worse than any of the 9 realms immortals. Wherever they went, other immortals saw from afar that it was the team of the ancient giant spirit clan, so they naturally stayed away and did not dare to meet them head-on. At this time, the roaring sky dog came here, suddenly stopped, and barked at the ancient Ruo god. The whole team also stopped because of this. Everyone knew that the roaring sky dog and the ancient Ruo god were communicating, so they did not disturb them. After the end, Guruo Shenjun frowned slightly, then turned around and waved to a woman behind him. The woman was wearing a slim battle armor, which set off her devilish figure. The skin exposed was wheat-colored and very wild. Among the crowd, she was like a fierce and sexy wildcat, attracting the attention of other immortals. Gu Di, go over there. There are 8 people going this way. The strongest is the 7 realms immortal king. Catch them and bring them back, Guruo Shenjun ordered. The Gu Di Shenjun nodded and said, yes, young master. She was ready to go, and when she left, she asked, young master, are these 8 people accomplices? Guruo Shenjun said, not really, but they have a good relationship with the murderer. Catch them in case of emergency. Understood. Gu Di will definitely complete the task. Gu Di Shenjun was actually very happy. The young master finally gave him an important task, which showed that the young master still admired her. After all, catching people who have a good relationship with the murderer will definitely play an important role once the murderer escapes. After she said goodbye to Lord Guru, she quickly disappeared in the direction of the Gu Mo camp, as if she had been injected with chicken blood, while Lord Guru led everyone to chase in the direction of Wu Yu. An immortal king next to her asked, young master, can I ask how many murderers there are in this direction who killed Lord Gujiang? 1 person, Lord Guru said. 1 person can actually kill Lord Gujiang? We should know such a strong man. The people behind him also thought so. Lord Guru said, don't underestimate the entire heavenly court. Even if there are immortals without background, some of them are very powerful. Yes. Everyone stopped talking and focused on chasing. They knew that with the good relationship between Lord Guru and Lord Gujiang, the murderer would definitely die. During this period of time, the ancient Ruo god didn't say much, which was very abnormal. Although it couldn't be seen from the outside, it was obvious that he must be very angry in his heart, and the anger of the ancient giant spirit clan was quite terrible. Since that day, Wu Yu has never seen Nangong Wei again. However, under his combination of exorcism and floating fairy dream, he can feel that every time the fire dance Phoenix Lord wakes up, her mental will be reduced compared to the last time. It is difficult for her to recover to her peak state, and she is even more tired every time. In order to make her pay attention to the body instead of the fairy god every time she wakes up, Wu Yu also deliberately did some things to her, such as creating some redness and swelling and blood stasis for her, so that she mistakenly believed that she had experienced a storm. "Why are you so cruel recently?" Fire Dance Phoenix Lord asked desperately. "It's too frequent, and I don't want her to wake up." Wu Yu said, "Time is running out. If we don't have a child, once the Taixu Immortal Road ends, I will be dead. Who told you to find out my identity?" Huao Huangjun could only regret it. If she didn't know that Wu Yu wanted to save Nangong Wei but failed, she might let her go in the end. But now, if she really gave birth to a child, it might be his only way out. Then, Wu Yu didn't wait for her to say a few more words and let her sleep again. She was really speechless about such Wu Yu. In the blink of an eye, another month passed outside. Wu Yu was thinking about a new realm. Suddenly, the clone outside the fusion tower seemed to be destroyed. This situation is very common. After all, someone occasionally comes to search the star and finds Wu Yu's clone. Often, Wu Yu goes out directly and then changes to another star. This time, Wu Yu also went out quickly, but in the process, he felt the existence of extreme danger. Therefore, he immediately made another reaction, which was to change his appearance. In a hurry, he became another 9 realms immortal lord that he devoured in an instant, Chifeng Immortal Lord. Because the other party did not attack him quickly, Wu Yu did not run away directly. He had to know who suddenly besieged him. At this time, he looked carefully and his face changed slightly. His clones outside did not find that the entire star he was in was actually completely closed at this time. And the degree of this closure was much stronger than that of the Eternal Phoenix clan last time. There were several layers inside and outside, all of which were immortal formations, airtight. Looking up, the whole sky was shrouded by a dim yellow sea. When he rushed up again, there seemed to be flames. Obviously, this should require the support of the Taixu artifact, and there are not many people who can own the Taixu artifact in the entire Taixu Immortal Road. Wu Yu's clone just now looked like himself, but the other party also knew that it was obviously a clone, and they basically had no impression of the real Wu Yu. At this time, Wu Yu's true body showed the Chifeng Immortal Lord it should be possible to deceive them. But it was obvious that his own body could no longer appear in front of them. Otherwise, by comparing it with the clone, they will know that the appearance of the clone is the appearance of the original body. Wu Yu looked around and saw that within the encirclement, there were more than 400 immortal lords, all of whom were from the powerful ancient giant spirit god clan. Their identities were obvious. Wu Yu had already seen the ancient Holmium god lord who had taken action. This person should be one of the strongest people in this endless galaxy. It is rumored that he has immortal king-level combat power, which is indeed quite terrifying. The clone didn't see anything just now, so he let him kill it. At this time, the pressure brought by his gaze was also quite huge. Obviously, their arrival is related to the death of the ancient Jiang god. But how could they possibly find themselves? At this moment, Wu Yu saw that the ancient Holmium god had a small black dog, turning its big dark eyes and staring at him. Suddenly, a word came to mind, that was Roaring Sky Dog. This comes from the memory of the ancient Jiang god. Wu Yu was concerned about Nangong Wei's affairs before, but did not pay close attention to it. Only now did he know that there is such a divine object as the Roaring Sky Dog. Moreover, the ancient Jiang Divine Lord did not know that the ancient Holmium Divine Lord actually brought the Roaring Sky Dog in. Judging from the memories of the ancient Jiang God Lord, he was also quite in awe of the ancient Holmium God Lord. Wu Yu searched these memories and already understood the ancient Holmium god lord quite well. The ancient giant spirit god once had many heirs, but none of them were immortal emperors. The ancient Holmium god, at least so far, is his greatest hope. His performance is better than that of his brothers. He is also a man of this generation in heaven. I didn't expect that he brought this roaring sky dog here. No wonder he found me. Rumor has it that this roaring sky dog's nose is very scary. It can even smell the smell of half of the endless galaxy. If it is there, I'm afraid it is no matter where I go, they can pinpoint my location. Moreover, he knew that Wu Yu was the murderer of the ancient Jiang God Lord. If he had known that killing the ancient Jiang God Lord would have such consequences, he would have just retreated from the enemy at the beginning. There is no use regretting now, he can only fight. Of course, he will not regret it, because the ancient Jiang God Lord severely injured his brothers and sisters in the Guo camp, and also killed people to seize the treasure. Young master, this person is the Chifeng Immortal Lord, an ordinary Immortal Lord. I didn't expect him to be able to defeat the ancient Jiang Divine Lord. He is really hidden too deep. Someone said to the ancient Holmium God. The ancient Holmium God Lord looked at Wu Yu. In fact, he had some doubts. But at this time, he began to speak and said to Wu Yu, Chifeng Immortal Lord, you dare to kill the ancient Jiang God Lord. You are very courageous. The evidence is solid. There is no point in running away. My clan's Boshan God King and Guhuo God King couple will not let you go. It's useless for me to kill you. When the Taixu Immortal Road is over, I will take you to die in front of the two God Kings. The ancient Jiang Divine Lord is indeed the queen of the two God Kings. He has a good relationship with the ancient Holmium Divine Lord, and at least his status is very high. You are just trying to catch me, but you want me to do it myself. If you let me do it, you will have to suffer a lot, the ancient Holmium God said. Of course, Wu Yu left quickly. The opponent set up a dragnet, but it could not trap him. He pretended to be scared, and the somersault cloud had already merged behind him. At this time, he rolled back and was about to leave through the void. I want to leave, the ancient Holmium God noticed his actions at a glance. Suddenly, two terrifying rays of light burst out from his eyes, coming quickly and engulfing Wu Yu as he rolled. The light disappeared instantly. Wu Yu is missing. Young master, he may have escaped. He can actually travel through the fairy formation we set up, how is it possible? Everyone searched everywhere but could not find Wu Yu. The roaring dog was already shaking its head. Ancient Holmium God Lord said, don't look for him. This person is indeed very capable of escaping. He is no longer around here. Everyone's expressions turned ugly. At this time, the ancient Holmium Divine Lord received a communication talisman. He smiled faintly and said, the ancient flute is well done. Even if this Chifeng Immortal Lord escapes to the ends of the world, she will not be able to escape from our hands. And she is still lucky. Not bad, I have obtained the 1st and 5th grade Immortal King seal. Everyone laughed. Everything is under the control of the ancient Holmium God. Yesterday, there were 400 new followers. You can continue to pay attention today and tomorrow. Reached 1,500, 5 chapters will be updated on Monday. Reached 2,000, 6 chapters will be updated on Monday. Reached 3,000, 7 chapters will be updated on Monday. Everyone, work harder, the madman is also working hard to save the manuscript, all in one go. Method. Open WeChat, add friend, click official account, search for my pen name Feng Qing Yang, read these 3 words clearly, and click to follow.